everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave. It's Jem here, and today we are going to do something a little bit more fun. Now, I did promise this video some time ago, and I am sufficiently organised now in the cave to have found things, so today is the day. We are going to be working in Magical Dawn by Hanna Karlzon today, and this is one of my, in fact no, it's not one of, it is my favourite Hanna Karlzon book. And today we are going to try and do an entire page in PanPastels. Now, this may or may not work, but we're going to give it a good shot anyway. So obviously the first thing I need are my PanPastels. So I've got them all here. I've kind of got like a pastel basket, so everything's all in here. In addition to the actual PanPastels, there's a few other items in my arsenal today, and it's something that if you want to try, I would highly recommend having something similar. The first is a packet of baby wipes, or at least a wet rag to wipe your hands on, because it doesn't matter how careful you are, you will get pastel on yourself. The other things that I have are the Winsor & Newton fixative, and this is the yellow label one, which is the workable fixative, because we want to do this in layers so that we can get as much depth and detail in with the pastels as possible. If you're in the US or Australia, I do believe that the Krylon one is more popular and cheaper and more easily accessible, but if you're in the UK and Europe, this is readily available for most people, so yeah, easy to get hold of. I also have two erasers here. I have my Derwent battery operated eraser, and I have this teeny weeny Tombow mono eraser as well, and that's just to help me get into some nooks and crannies. I am going to see how this goes to begin with, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I will be going in with some pastel pencils when we've finished, just to get some really fine detail in. I have the Faber-Castell Pit pastel pencils. These were actually a wedding gift, best wedding gift out of everything. I favour these over some of the other brands that I've tried. Obviously other brands are available and you can use whichever you please. I find that these go down particularly well on top of the workable fixative though, so I'm quite happy to potter away with those should we need them later on. So I had to be very careful in what page I was choosing to do, because we don't want anything with a huge amount of detail, bearing in mind that we are working with these massive pans, and in addition to that, the smallest sort of applicator we have is either a cotton bud or these sort of palette, I call them palette knives, they're not knives at all, but you know what I'm talking about. And we also have some, they look like eyeshadow applicators, so that's about as fine as we're going to get in terms of being able to work in small spaces. So I did pick quite carefully when deciding what image to use, and I have plumped for this one here. There is a particular pastel that I'm desperate to try out, and it's one that I haven't used yet, and it is this absolutely outrageous sort of pinky purple colour. I'm just going to take this off so I can see what it's called. Magenta shade, it is magenta. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and I kind of got a feeling that these flowers might end up magenta. What we want to do first, I'll just pop this out the way just now, is we want to think about a colour scheme and not necessarily have it set in stone, but we want to have an idea of what colours we're going to put where. So these are more my kind of bright colours. So we've got the magenta, I've got this outrageous yellow here, I don't know whether I'm going to use that or not because it is outrageous. So we'll just unscrew all these. At this stage, because I haven't used the PanPastels a lot, I actually find it easier to lay them all out and pick out my colours rather than know in my head what I want to use for a picture, because obviously I can only work with what I've got. Now this is the first thing that's speaking to me, apart from this magenta colour, which I think I'm going to use for some of the petals, is this sort of, I was going to say it's like a dark teal, but it's actually a turquoise shade. I kind of want to use that as well. So having those as my starting point, I want to find something that's perhaps going to go with this magenta for our petals. And I'm thinking maybe this sort of pale pink colour might be quite nice, because we can mix them a little bit to create different shades. So even some of this with a touch of the magenta, and it might turn out quite nicely. And then I can maybe use this purple for the bottom part of the flowers. So we can see how that goes for our flowers. And I think I might use this for the background and pale it out to something like this pale blue here, phthalo blue tint, that might work quite well. And then we've got the foliage, which is interesting. I don't want to go earthy tones, I want to kind of keep it quite light. So perhaps a mixture of this green here, which is Phthalo green, and the permanent green tint. Again, we can kind of mix those together. So I think we'll go with those as a starting point. It's not to say we can't use these other colours, but I think that might be a good place to at least make a start and just see how we get on. As I said, this is very experimental today, but you guys know I kind of like stuff like this. So I'll just pack the rest of these away to the side just now, and then we can make a start on our picture. The next thing I've got here is 2 sheets of tracing paper, and the first one I am going to stick down just with some washi tape on the opposite page. There is going to be some wayward pastel dust, that kind of goes without saying with stuff like this. Using washi tape's always a good option, because it's very low tack, so when you go to actually lift the sheet back off later on, you're less likely to take half of the paper with you. So I'm just going to tuck that right into the crease as best I can and just press it down. So our little bird with our castle on its back's nice and protected, and if I get all squishy fingers on it, it doesn't matter. The second sheet I am going to place behind the one we're working on, and that is really just to catch any dust that's going to spill off over the sides. Again, that is highly likely, especially because this is me we're talking about. I'm going to roll my sleeves up as well because I don't want to dip my sleeves in it either. Right, so my approach to this is going to be that we're going to start from the background and work our way forward. If we think about working in layers as you would with your coloured pencils or even with your paint, so you want to do the background first. I am going to do my best to try and avoid some of these intricate parts, and it's just so that there's less to erase once we're finished the first layer, but I'm not overly concerned about going over the lines because the PanPastels are very, very forgiving. They're really easily rubbed out, so it's not too much of a hassle. And I do find that the larger sponges are much better, so I have a selection of them here, and they come in all different shapes, and they feel like hard makeup sponges, you know, like a firm makeup sponge. I also have this huge big oval sponge that I haven't used yet, and I'm quite tempted to try this because it'll just basically because it looks like fun. Why not? Simple things, simple things. So start with our lightest colour, which is this lovely blue colour. I'm just going to lift some onto the sponge. I'm just dabbing, I'm not rubbing, just dabbing. Make sure that my sheet is in a sensible place. Now I'm going to work right to left because I'm left-handed. I say this all the time, but that saves you dipping your fingers or your elbow in something that you've already done. So we're going to ignore the bubbles just now. We'll do something with them later. But I just want to get a layer of this light colour down, see what it looks like, and then we can go from there. And straight away, as I said, I haven't used this sponge before. The colour laydown is so even. That's just fabulous. I really like this sponge. I might actually buy a few more of these. One of my next projects with the PanPastels is I am going to do a large scale version of the deer portrait that I did. Again, some of you may remember that. You can always go back and look for that. It was a few months ago, and I'm going to get a massive sheet of pastel mat and I'm going to redo it for my staircase here in the new house. And you get the pastel mat in massive sheets of paper, but I think a sponge this size would be really helpful because I'm going to have to cover a much bigger area than I did previously when I was testing it out. Okay, so I'm coming down. You can see I'm going over the petals here, but I'm not doing it deliberately, but I'm not trying to avoid them either, if that makes sense. You can cover a massive area really, really quickly. And if you are a pencil colorist, then this is like heaven because pencils are the slowest medium you will ever use apart from oils, but that's drying time, that's not actual coverage. This is just, it's so refreshing, it's so nice. Okay, so I'm going to move to a smaller sponge now because I want to start manoeuvring my way into some of these gaps. So I'm going to go to this round topped one, and same thing again, I'm just dabbing. You do not need to press hard in here. If you start hacking away at it with your sponge, you're going to ruin your sponges really quickly, and I learned that from last time. You can be pretty gentle and you will still pick up a lot of pastel, and that's one of the main differences I've found between PanPastels and other brands of pastels, that a little bit of this seems to go a really, really long way. We'll get this down. This is quite surreal today because I'm sitting here chit-chatting away as normal, and it's really odd because I know that Mama Gem's in the next room, and I don't know, it's kind of unnerving because normally when I film these videos I'm just here with the dogs in the cave doing my thing, not used to having people in my house. Better make sure I behave myself and don't say anything offensive because she'll shout at me. I'm just going to go for it round here so we can erase all this out, that's not a problem. You can see I'm using my middle finger there just to pin the page down on the parts where I've not put any pastel, and again that stops you getting pastel on your fingers and then inadvertently, you know, putting it down somewhere where you don't want it. So I'm going to move to this darker colour now. Ooh. And I'm going to use one of these eyeshadow applicators. I don't know how well you would get on with actually buying eyeshadow applicators. I don't think there would be much difference. Cost wise it would probably be cheaper as well. If anybody has tried that out with their PanPastels, please let me know because I am curious. Right, okay, so now I want to decide where I'm putting in this darker colour. How far up do I want it to come? And the answer to that is I don't know. I think maybe like in a semicircle about here somewhere. So I'm just going to work my way around, again not deliberately going over these leaves down at the bottom, but not really making an effort to avoid them. So this is going to take a bit of working in because we're working over this paler colour. We are going to have to sort of blend it in. So this might take a layer or two to get it the way we want it, because I'm thinking of sort of like a gradient here. I still don't imagine that this is going to take too long. Yeah, I think maybe we'll take it up here a little bit. See how that goes, and then we can just sort of taper it off around here. Okay, so this little corner's given me a good idea of what we're looking like and what the colour's looking like. Now I'm not pressing hard with my little sponge here, just get this in circular motions. I know some of you are always looking for the, you know, smooth perfection when you do stuff like this. While I applaud anyone that has really smooth backgrounds, I kind of find them a little bit boring if I'm honest. I like to have a little bit of texture, and that's one of the reasons I love working in pencil, full stop. So when it comes to this pastel, I'm not really looking for a completely smooth flat background, but as you can see it's very much achievable. So I'm just building this up now. I don't know how much more pastel this paper will take in terms of layers. I suppose that's something that could be tested out beforehand, but there's not a lot of room in Hannah's books to test stuff like that out. There's maybe like a page at the back, but we're doing okay so far. So far so good. I do find that when I'm doing projects like this, I actually find it easier to gauge what's going on by looking at the monitor, which is up here. It's something I find really helpful because it gives me a viewpoint that's a bit further away than where I am actually sitting. And for those of you who want to do this that don't have a camera hanging above your head, a good idea to that is just to stand up and sort of peer down at it, or even walk away. It's really good to walk away and come back, you know, just with a fresh pair of eyes, because I always think that you see a lot more when you've done that. You know, if you've been sitting squinting at something for a couple of hours, you get that old you can't see the wood for the trees sort of situation, and it is good to get up and just walk away, and you can come back and see where things need adjusted, or you know, where you need to add things in or take things away. That's a piece of advice I would give to anybody about any type of art. Get up and walk away, take a break, does you good. Obviously you come back and you can see all your mistakes. If you wanted a more intense version of this turquoise down at the bottom, you could put some of it down before you put the pale blue down, you know, just on like the bottom half of the picture. That would work quite well as well, because naturally it's slightly diluted, if that's the correct phrase, because we've put the pale blue down before it. Here comes the fun part. I'm going to take my battery operated eraser and I'm going to start cleaning up round the areas where we don't want the pastel. The other thing that's quite handy when you're doing this is to have a soft brush like this. This is just a cheap makeup brush, and it came in a set, and when I felt the bristles I thought, oh, that would be perfect for dusting away when I'm doing arty stuff, so it's no longer lives in my makeup case. So this is literally just working my way around inside the line work and cleaning up. So that's all the petals and the leaves down the bottom here. And I'm also going to take out some of these bubbles as well. Probably not all of them, but some of them. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'll catch you up when I am finished. So that took a wee bit longer than I thought. That took me about 10 minutes, and I did find that using this Tombow Mono eraser, you know, this little mechanical eraser, was much better for getting into these tight spaces here, like these little stalks and stems. So now that I'm happy that that is the background layer, I want to just fix this to the paper so that it's not going to go anywhere. When you're using this fixative, you do need to use it in a well ventilated area, so I'm going to take this outside, spray it and let it dry, and then when we come back we can start on some of our lovely flowers. So I was just having a wee think while I was waiting for that to dry, and I'm going to go between these leaves and stems and the flowers, and again I'm just going to work my way over. I genuinely don't think, I'm starting with this paler green here, this sort of minty green colour, and I'm using this little kind of eyeshadow type applicator again. I really don't think we're going to get much detail. I'm not that skilled with something that's got that kind of tip on it. So even if we get most of the block colouring in and some of the shading, I think we'll be doing well, and after that we will probably have to switch over to some pastel pencils. But I just wanted to go through the process and really just see what, you know, what could be achieved by doing this with the PanPastels. I mean, really they weren't designed for colouring, you know, things like this in a colouring book, but they are very, very good for backgrounds. But if you are only using them for backgrounds, they are pretty expensive. So I don't know, I think you have to be able to justify within your own budget whether or not something like that is worth it. I would say, however, especially when it comes to backgrounds and colouring books, if there is a particular colour or set of colours that you use a lot, it would be well worth investing in, you know, just a pan of each of those colours, because they do go a long way, and I have a feeling that one of these pans would last a significantly longer time than a stick of chalk pastel. Okay, I'm just trying to get a nice sort of solid layer of this green down. And it's kind of merging in with my background, which I'm not overly happy about. I'm going to take a separate applicator. I'm trying to keep these colours as separate as possible. I think I might actually try a cotton bud, seeing as we're kind of experimenting today. In fact, even better, I've got a blending stump here. Aside from paper, the other thing that I have an endless supply of is blending stumps, and I have no idea why. I have no idea why. So I'm going to take this really bright green, and I'm just going to pop the end of my blending stump in it and give it a little smush about. Ooh! And I just want to go down. Oh wowee! I just want to go down this stem part a little bit and see what we can do here. I'm not even happy with the way that this is going down. It is very uneven. I'll maybe get it zoomed in a little bit now, seeing as we're working on the details. Yeah, it's as if the fixative doesn't want to pick up the pastel, and this is not something that I've ever had an issue with, and I've used this fixative with all my pastel stuff. I think it's probably the blending stump, but I just don't have something small enough that's going to fit in this gap. So therein lies the first challenge with using PanPastels. I mean, that's just not going to happen. It is going down much better doing that. I've just got a little scrap of paper here as well, and I'm just going to try and sort of dab off some of the excess off this applicator. I'll try and sort of get a bit of dimension in these leaves, and that seems to work quite well. So let's move on to these flowers, and for this I'm going to use this rounded end palette knife thing, palette squishy doofery bob, and I'm just going to go neat purple. I'm a wee bit scared about this, I'm not going to lie. Now, I've found that with this a lot of it is just getting the right angle. That is so bright. I don't often use really bright colours, so I'm just going to enjoy this as much as I can. I was kind of thinking the bottom of these flowers though, where the pattern is, you know, where it's got the inset, that's going to be the same colour as the leaves. That's my theory anyway. Whether or not we manage that is another matter entirely. Oh, this is really difficult. I still haven't dipped this applicator back in the pastel though. This is still like the same swipe of pastel, it's still going. There's areas where I want to be darker and lighter and sort of make these parts differentiate a little bit more, and I just can't do it because the clumsiness factor is huge, and I've got a dirty great big purple smudge there. I'll take this out with my Tombow. And I'll just try and fill this in as best I can. Oh, wowee. I'm going to say at this early stage where you've only just started like the detail of the picture, this is a really bad idea. I'm still determined though, I'm going to do as much as possible with these PanPastels before I jump over to our friend, the pencil. Gem in the Cave's permanent friend, the pencil. The humble pencil. Okay, I don't know how y'all are feeling about that. I don't know how I'm feeling about that. Jeez. I've got these sections here. This is where I'm excited about my magenta. And I think we'll have to stick with these little applicators. I don't think there's any other option at this stage really. With this, I'm super excited about this colour. Just because it's outrageous and no other reason. Wowee, look at that! Trying not to contaminate my purple. See, I don't know whether I should have been doing this in layers again, but it seems to me that that would be a lot of faffing about just for, you know, the sake of these tiny little sections. I'm just going to try and build up this colour and make it as rich as possible. Oh, here's Pip. I think she's been rumbling about with Mama Gem, but she's come and sat in her chair. It's no longer, you know, the armchair in the cave, it's just Pip's chair. Oh my. That did not go according to plan at all. I can say for certain that these parts round here, like these kind of apron frills, we're definitely not going to be doing that with these, that's for sure. And I have pastel all over my cuff. Happy days. Forgot about rolling my sleeves back up. Okay, this is kind of like residual pastel now. And I just want to sort of squish that along these edges. There is that very technical phrase again, squishing it along, obviously. And then I'm going to blend in some of this pale pink that we picked out earlier. And we can see how that goes, that might be fun. Now to begin with, I'm just laying the colour down. And I'm just sort of bringing them edge to edge. And once I've laid all the colour down, then I can start blending them together. So let's see how this goes. A bit of blendy blendy. Okay, so far so good, I think. I'm going to continue on and do these other flowers. I'm going to speed this bit up though because it'll be really boring for you to watch. And I shall catch you back up once we have done the rest of these flowers and things. Sounds good to me? Okay, there we go. I have filled in my flowers. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and let you see how patchy this is. It is not ideal and it is very difficult to smooth out on this paper in these small spaces with the tools that we have available to us. However, I do not feel that we have lost anything and I'm still pretty optimistic at this point because now that we have all our PanPastel down and I have done all that, I'm not even going to use the word shading, I would have to use that very loosely. But now that we've got our colours down, I am going to tidy up these edges and then I'm going to crack open the pastel pencils and we're going to make this come to life. So I think at this point the consensus is that the PanPastels are great for covering large areas, especially if it's open spaces. Definitely good for things like skin tones where you need to blend quite a bit, and also for backgrounds as we've already discussed. So that is my not very professional opinion at this stage. But let's just see what we can do from this going on now with the pencils. So I'm just going to pick out similar shades to what I have used, maybe just slightly darker than what we've used in the PanPastels, and we can pick out some of the details and see what we can do to add a little bit of depth to this because it does look very flat right now. I've just thrown a post-it note in the bin, the one that I was using to dab off my sponges on, and Pip has just retrieved it from the bin, is now tearing it to shreds on the carpet. Love having dogs. So I do have my swatches here. This is my swatch book that I keep everything in, and I do have all my pastel pencils swatched out, and I keep a little sheet of that tracing paper over the top of it. It has got fixative on it, but it's just to stop anything transferring over to the other side. So I'm going to use this as a reference now to try and pick out some colours that are going to go with what we've got. So I'll try and squish this up so that you can see. So thinking first of all about the background, I'd quite like to take either 149 or 155 here to just add a little bit down in the bottom here. So I think we'll be a little bit braver and we'll go that wee bitty darker. So I'm going to go 155, and it'll be interesting to see how this behaves on top of what's already there. So again, just a little bit of an experiment here, but I just want to see if we can go in on top here. Now it is quite blue in comparison, but what I'm hoping is it's going to make some of these lower leaves stand out a little bit more. And there you go, that's an ideal example down here. You can see that the paler colour's popping out from the page a little bit more now. Now the areas where I've got sort of a thicker amount of the PanPastel, the pencil's not going down all that well, but I think we're going to do an okay job with this. Now I'm hoping that if I take this cotton bud, and you can see that I can smooth out this pencil and just spread it out a wee bit over the top of what's already there. So you can see the difference that's making. Now you could take that as far up as you like, and I think I'm going to go, in fact no, do you know what, I think I'm just going to keep it where it is. I'm quite happy. So just building up a bit of colour here and very gently blending out what we've put down in pencil. I'm just sort of tickling the paper here. And you can see it's made these bottom leaves just stand out that little bit more. And I've picked out a couple of colours for the leaves as well. I've got this 159, which is a darker green, and I was just going to use that to put in a wee bit of definition and detail on some of these areas here. And I'm kind of picking and choosing. So I put a wee bit of shadow in there. Use this as kind of like a shadow. Now some areas are picking this up better than others, and there's some areas where the pencil just isn't going down at all, and that may be to do with a combination of the paper and the fixative, as well as the amount of pastel that we've got down, because it seems to be the areas where there's less pastel, it's picking up more of the pencil. And I've got this nice turquoisey one as well, and I was going to use that on some of these leaves here. Again, not picking up much of that. It's just going on better in some areas than others. So that's a little bit disappointing, because I was hoping that we would be able to really add some more to this, and it's just not going down at all. I'm trying my hardest here, but nothing's happening. This turquoisey pencil that I've got though, I am going to use this on these patterned areas. I want to call this like a frill or an apron for some reason, because it reminds me of, you know, an old-fashioned grandmother's apron, or something you would wear in the 60s or 70s to bake your cookies or your brownies. I'm pretty sure my gran had an apron like this at one point. In fact, she's probably still got it actually. I must ask her next time I'm chatting to her. Now it's definitely the combination of the pastel and the fixative, because in these areas where there is no pastel, it is taking this pencil like a boss. So there we go, that's answered that question for us. Okay, now as a picture, I mean technically you could say it is finished. I'm not satisfied with this at all in the slightest. I think that there's way more that could be done with it. So I am going to continue to plug away and see what I can achieve, and I'm going to grab some Posca pens. Yeah, I'm not happy with the flowers. It's mainly the flowers. So I want to see what I can do here. And I do have some sparkly pens, which is interesting, but I don't know if any of the colours are actually going to tie in with what we've got. And I've got this sparkly purple colour, which may or may not, I think it's actually too close to what's here. I'm just going to try. Oh wow. Let's see what we can do and make this maybe a wee bit more exciting. It's making it marginally more interesting. I'm not sure how much of the sparkle you're going to see either. The sparkle is quite It's quite delicate in these, but you can see here just naturally that what has happened is that the purple has got this sort of whitish edge on it, and it's just where I've stopped when I've been rubbing it in. So I'm kind of going to take advantage of this, and I've got a white pastel pencil here, and I'm just going to sort of emphasize that along this edge and maybe try and bring that down slightly. Yeah, that's working out okay. This really is like a massive experiment today. It's kind of cool though, because it's things that I wouldn't necessarily have looked at or tried if it hadn't been asked for by you guys. So yeah, thanks again everyone. And the white seems to be going down quite nicely, and again we've only got one layer of pastel here, so that's quite telling, I think. That is instantly better. I'm kind of like I'm not really using a particular method at any point here. I'm just kind of like working section by section and eyeballing it to see if maybe we can spice things up a little bit. I'm pretty sure that this sparkle isn't going to show up on the camera, and even when the paint's drying it's not really standing out a huge amount, but when you tilt it in the light, you can see the sparkle, and it is quite a subtle sparkle, but I like that. I don't like, you know, massive glittery. I'm really not into that at all. Okay, I'm kind of happy that I've rescued the purple bits. I don't know what I'm going to do about these leaves though. If all else fails, make it sparkly. Oh, I do have a green sparkly one. I think we'll just maybe pop these in the stems. You know, and again have this as an accent more than anything else. Yeah, okay. Right, now onto these petals and things. Goodness knows what I'm going to do with these. I've got this really nice colour. This was a pen that I got in an up crate, and I'm really curious because I haven't tried this at all. I actually haven't used these supplies, but it's got a massive nib on it. Oh good grief, I don't know how we're going to get on with this. I was going to do these little sections here. And I was kind of hoping for like a pinky purpley. This purple's going to be too... Well, in saying that, that could work in our favour as well. I'm just thinking out loud here, guys. This is like a lilac colour. I'm just going to be brave. I'm just going to do it. Yeah, okay. I think it's wise not to overdo it with this. Maybe like a less is more approach. These are kind of starting to remind me of peacock feathers a little bit. Now moving on to this turquoise part. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm actually thinking of putting a blue over the top of it, but again I may live to regret this decision. That's not really doing anything for me. And last we've got the petals. Okay, now I'm just lining everything with varying Posca pens just to make it more interesting. Now the question is this going to ruin it? Probably. Yeah, that was a really bad idea. Not one of my better ideas, but we've started so we can continue. I do think it looks okay round here, round the tops of the petals. All I can hear is Pip like skidding about the house. She's just been outrageous this afternoon. I deeply regret this set of lines, but I'm just going anyway. Okay, lastly I've got a white Posca pen here, and I am just going to catch these dots in the flowers, and the white's actually standing out quite nicely against this pale pink. I'm going to take this pale pink that I used before, and I am just going to pick out the smaller bubbles that don't have a reflection on them. So you can see there's some here. That massive sigh from Pip. Oh goodness me, it's a terribly hard life being a Pip. In case you didn't know that already, guys, I'm sure you did though. Such a hard life. Now I'm not doing them all, I just want to pick out one or two, and it's really to help tie the colours from the bottom of the picture into the top of the picture. And I'm also going to take a turquoisey colour, and again same thing, not going to do them all, but just wanted to pick one or two out at random. There we go. I am quite tempted to start putting different things on these bubbles up here, but I think it might ruin it. Dare I? Oh, why not? In for a penny, in for a pound. I'll go back to this pink again. I'll just do this on the big bubbles. Okay, there we go, guys. I think I'm going to stop there and call it quits. Now, if I just zoom out, let's just talk about experiences. I don't think PanPastel is good for a full page. I think we've established that that is not the way forward, just on account of it's difficult to get into tight spaces with it, and it's difficult to blend when you're working in a small surface area such as things like these petals. And this is by no means a simple and open, what I would call an open page, you know, with lots of large surface areas. So the more detailed your page, for example the one next door, you'd have no chance in here. So I would say, as I kind of like mentioned before, I would say for things like skin tones and mixing like a base tone for skin, and for backgrounds, PanPastels all the way. Details not so much. And I was quite surprised that the paper and the pastel didn't take more of the pastel pencil over the top with it. So again, you know, I like to show the good with the bad. I would like to say at best I have rescued this, and it is by no means my best colouring ever, but today was an experiment and I like to do the what ifs, and if we can learn something from it then absolutely fab. And I have learned today that Posca pen fixes everything. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed just watching this, just even if it's just to satisfy your curiosity. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this once more with fixative. I do that with all my colouring pages anyway. The Posca pen is not likely to go anywhere, but I'm just wondering whether or not you can actually see any of the sparkle in the light if I tip the page. I think you can see it on the purple a little bit, maybe not so much the green. But still, good experiment. I've had great fun doing this today. It was one of those ones where I seem to just be using every art supply that's kicking about in the cave, but we got there eventually. So all that remains is to remind you that the birthday giveaway is still open. Entries for that giveaway close this coming Sunday. So get yourself sorted out and get yourself entered by watching the video, which is on the end card, and you might be in with a chance to win a prize. Winners will be announced next Thursday, so a week from today is when the winners will be notified. Alright guys, that is it for today. Thanks very much for coming to hang out, and we'll see you back in the cave really soon for another video. Bye for now everyone.